What I'm doing is combining spirituality with psychology to help you find peace and meaning in your very life without the need of achieving something externally. That's what the majority of people spend their lives doing. They're constantly searching for something to add on to their life, to add on to themselves in order to feel whole, satisfied. And if you're watching this, you might have even noticed no matter what you attain, no matter what you get, no matter what thing you add to your life, it's never going to satisfy you, because the thinking mind, I call it, will always want something else. So you could design your life perfectly to fit every single thing that you want. And even if you were to do that, what would happen is your mind would say, okay, what's the next thing? You're searching for something. All humans are searching. They spend their entire lives searching for something. What are they looking for? What are you looking for? What is life looking for? It seems to be embedded into the very structure of life, that life is constantly searching. It's made evident by that first creature that ventured onto land from the ocean. What was it looking for? What is life searching for? Humans are constantly searching out there for something that's within. And if you have not found it within first, you're not going to find it out there. This is why scientists are never going to cut open the human brain and find you. Scientists are never going to be able to find you. They can look at your body. They can look at the neurons in your brain firing. They can look at the brain itself. They can look at the chemicals. But where are you? No scientist is ever going to find it. You can only find it by looking within. Science is always majority, usually, it's changing now, usually focused externally, looking without. I suggest there's a big portion of life, of exploration missing, and that's introspection, looking within. And that's what I've been doing for a very long time, is introspection, looking within, finding the being within. And in today's video and podcast episode, I want to talk to you about what it is you're looking for. And I'd suggest what you're looking for is what we can call being. Now, you might have heard me say being quite a lot, the word being. You might know what I'm talking about when I say that. You might still be struggling to grasp it. What I mean by being is, it's a term that I learned from Buddhism. What I mean by being is we can describe it as the one formless life energy currently manifesting itself in every single life form and everything currently in the universe. Now, if this is the first time you're hearing this, you're probably going to be like, what are you talking about? Every single life form comes from the same source. How do I know? It's firstly my opinion. It's okay to disagree with this. It's my opinion that every spiritual teaching and every religious practice, every kind of religion that have developed from these very enlightened spiritual teachers of Jesus and the Buddha and these sorts of people, it's my opinion, all of these different religions are different valleys. I'm not saying they're the same. I'm saying they're different valleys leading to the same source. What is that source? It's what we can call being. Being is the formless life energy of who you are. Being, sometimes I substitute it with nature, life, the universe, whatever you want to call it. It's the one intelligence keeping everything going. Now, if that's the first time you're hearing that, it sounds a bit new age, it sounds a bit ridiculous. But let me give you an example. When you think about the bird, do you think a bird makes decisions? And I mean this seriously. Do you think a bird wakes up one morning, sees that it's winter, and decides to fly south? Do you think it sees, oh, it's winter time now, it gets out its compass, gets out its map, and it starts to make its way towards south for the winter? It's not how it happens. So what's happening there? How is that bird managing to fly south without any maps that we need and things like that. Some people would say it's just embedded knowledge within the bird's DNA. It's just natural selection. I'd suggest that's the same thing that I'm referring to here, which is that there is one flow of life, one flow of nature that is sweeping all of life, that has not yet separated itself from that one life that we can call nature, that we can call being. So what's happened to humans is that they've separated themselves from this one flow of nature. They see themselves as a little individual self on planet Earth or in nature, as opposed to being nature, being one with nature, being one with life, or what we can say is being one with being. So when you're one with being, what that means is you are one with that natural flow of nature, because the bird doesn't choose to fly south. The bee doesn't choose. It's not sitting there thinking, making little decisions as we humans do, or think that we're doing. It doesn't think, right, I'm going to go over here now, or I'm going to go over there now, and I'm going to do this. It doesn't sit and fret about whether it's going to find pollen and whatever it's looking for, whatever, to make honey, to find nectar. It just flies. It's just happening. What's going on there? It's flowing with the one intelligence, the one life energy, the one essence of all of life that we can call being. Being is the formless life energy currently manifesting itself in everything today. It's the thing that's manifesting itself in you, in me, in your friends, in your enemies, in the animals, the formless life energy giving rise to form. That's what I mean when I say the term being. So we can call that then being. I sometimes call it nature, awareness, life. That being is what people meant by God. The human mind heard the term God, and misinterpreted what these teachers were saying, and they created an image of a man in the sky looking down on us and whipping humanity, and do this or I'm going to punish you. That's how the human mind heard the term God and the teachings that were being referred to. I suggest that's a misinterpretation. It was Richard Dawkins who created the God delusion. I don't believe he found the delusion of God. It's my belief he found the misinterpretation of God. It was the misinterpretation that there is an external entity looking down on us, whipping humanity and controlling and manipulating our behavior. That's not what anyone meant by the term God. So if you don't like that word anymore, that's fine. That's why I like the term being. But that's what every spiritual text, every ancient enlightened teacher, every religion points to. The different valleys leading to this same source. What is the source? It's the formless life energy giving rise to all of life that we could call being. So most of humanity today feel as though they need to make all of their decisions. It's as though they have to decide how their life's going to look. It's as though they have to make all of their decisions and take all of their actions to make sure that they're going to be okay. But do you see any other animal doing that, really? So it might look like they are, but do you think they're really sitting fretting about whether they're going to be provided with the things that they need? Or are they just flowing with the oneness of life? Are they just flowing with the natural flow of life, of nature? That is what I would suggest. The plants, the trees, don't sit and fret whether they're going to get sunlight, whether they're going to get pollinated, whether the animals are going to come and take their seeds and move them somewhere else to keep growing. They don't fret and worry about that. Why? Because it's being taken care of by the natural flow of being. Humans separated themselves from it. I'm going to make a separate video on this at one time as well, but this is what was meant by the fall in Adam and Eve. It was never supposed to be taken as a literal story. A better term for it would have been separation. Humans separated themselves from life. Rather than being one with life, one with nature, one with being, they see themselves as a separate entity on a rock, hurtling through space, no idea why they're here, and all they can see is this little individual body. That's all they can see. That's all they can identify with. It'd be weird not to feel scared, wouldn't it? What I'm suggesting is there is an element of you that can connect with the entirety of life itself. And what I would suggest is that you've never actually lost that. It's only been temporarily veiled. You've never lost oneness with life. You've never lost yourself. It's just been temporarily forgotten. So this is what is meant by a spiritual awakening. Another term for that could be a spiritual remembering. Remembering who you are beyond this egoic entity created in the mind of just thoughts of memories and names and labels and roles. That's an egoic self. It's a false sense of self. Behind, within, transcending all of that is a formless essence of life that we could call being, we can call awareness, we can call consciousness in its purest state. That is who you are. Beyond the thoughts of your mind, beyond the feelings of your body, beyond the body itself, there is what's left. You know, you can cut your arm off and replace it with a metal arm. You can stop thinking. I don't know if anyone's experienced that, but you can stop thinking. I've made videos before on this moment where you can just stop your thoughts. There's no thinking left. Yet there you are. Who is that you? It's the being. It's the essence of who you are. It's just become lost in the thinking mind. So when I use the term being, I use it in different ways. You don't need to understand it because you can't describe being really. You can't label it. You can't form an image of it. That's why I like the term being as opposed to God, because God, most people create an image of it, and for a lot of people it has a really negative light to it. It creates a lot of horrible emotions because of the centuries of misinterpretations of what was meant by God. People feel angry towards that word now. How could you say the word God? Of course there's not a God. So this is why I prefer the term being. It doesn't matter what word you use. It's just a word. This is why Buddhism's always been one of my favorites. It's because there's a saying in Buddhism which is that in order to be the Buddha, you have to kill the Buddha. Now people hear that and it sounds like strange. What are you talking about? To be the Buddha, you have to kill the Buddha. The mind can't comprehend this. You have to really just listen to what the words are pointing to there. And what they're pointing to is this idea that you cannot conceptualize, think about, or form an image of God, the Buddha, being. You can't form an image of it because the moment you have, you've lost it. God exists in the silence, in the space, in the formlessness of life. In order for there to be form, there have to first be space in which that form can appear. You'd agree with that, right? There can't be form without there first being space for that form to be. In the same way, you can't put something in a cup unless there's emptiness first to pour that thing into it, right? You get what I'm saying? What is in that formlessness? What is in that no-thingness of the universe? Its being is what we can call God. It's the intelligence of life. Humans have become separated from it. So when I use the term being, that's what I'm referring to there. It's the formless life energy within all things. And when you hear this, and you hear me saying this, you might find there's just a truth behind the words that you can't quite conceptualize. It just feels natural though. It feels right. This idea that all of life is one. You might have heard those words before and never really grasped what they meant, or it just hadn't meant that much to you. All of life is one. What does that mean? All of life is the same source manifesting itself just in trillions of different life forms. That's what is meant by being. So I've described there as best I can what it means by being when I use that word. What I also want to say now is that I sometimes use the word being as if it's a verb as well, as if it's something that you can do. So I'll say being is the way to live spiritually, or in order to live spiritually you should learn how to be. Now, a lot of people hear that and they think, right, so what you need to do is you need to go and sit and do nothing and just focus on your breath and meditate. That's not what I mean by being. Like, you don't have to not do anything to be. What I mean by being is allowing yourself to connect with that formless life energy that we can call being. It's allowing yourself, your true self, to connect with that element of being. That's what that means. So to be means to allow the one life energy of being to flow into your vessel of the body. So I often say the body is a window through which the universe is experiencing itself. How do I know that? Well, every single thing that I'm made up of, that makes this body, that makes this brain, comes from the universe. There's no separation. There's no me and the universe. There's just the universe, right? I'm not separate from the universe. Everything that makes me is the universe. What does that mean? I am the universe. I am the part of the universe. There's no separation there. And I'm conscious. What does that mean? I am the universe, because there's no separation, and I am conscious. What does that mean? I am consciousness. I am consciousness experiencing itself. I am the universe experiencing itself consciously. It's as though this element of consciousness that we can say here, that consciousness is who you are, right? It's the element of you that exists beyond the thinking mind. The moment you transcend the thinking mind and realize, okay, beyond thought, there is me. The moment you grasp that, you realize, okay, I'm not this body. I'm not the thinking mind. I'm not my name. I'm not the roles that I play. I'm not the job that I do. I'm not the memories that I hold in my mind. I'm not made up just from past experiences. Beyond all of that, what's left is this essence of, we could just say, I am. This I amness, this just I am here. There's no label you need to add to it. The mind will want to, but there's no label you need to add to it. There is just this I amness, this I am here, and I'm conscious. This is, of course, what Eckhart Tolle meant when he said, I think. So he said that Descartes made a very profound error when he said the phrase, I think, therefore I am, because he was equating living with thinking, okay, which many humans do. However, Eckhart Tolle came along and said, I am, therefore I think. There is this element of I amness that exists beyond the thinking mind. What's happened is that I amness, this consciousness, has lost itself in the thinking mind. But the moment this I amness, this consciousness, remembers itself, that's the spiritual awakening. That's what's happening there. So in order to be, what I mean by being doesn't mean that you have to go and sit in the forest and not move and just not do anything. By being, what that means is to allow this life energy to flow into what you're doing, rather than you seeing yourself as an individual entity doing and making decisions. You allow this life energy to flow through you. You allow this life energy, which is who you are, beyond the egoic self. So I'll make another video on ego as well. Beyond the egoic self, there is this life energy of who you are that doesn't has to form an identity of itself out of memories and past experiences and all of the things that's happened to you. You don't need all of that anymore. You just allow this life energy to flow into what you're doing, into your behaviors, into your actions. And that is what is meant in the story of Adam and Eve. When you eat from the tree of life, when you eat from the tree of life and you become one with God, what did they mean by that? They said to eat from the tree of life, you'll live forever. I'd suggest that's a mistranslation, perhaps. A more accurate way of saying that is you'll live timelessly. So the element of the I am, the being, the essence of who you are, that flows through you, that flows into what you do, I'd suggest is timeless. It doesn't succumb to the flow of time. It's what we could call the fourth dimensional property of who you are. Okay, it's the fourth dimensional. So fourth dimension is time. We are now in the three-dimensional world experiencing the flow of the fourth dimensional property of time. You don't have to understand that right now. But that element of you that is the I amness, this I am here beyond the thinking mind, the moment you grasp that, you realize the element of who you are beyond the body and beyond the thoughts is timeless. It just is. It doesn't age. It doesn't change. It doesn't live. It doesn't die. It just is. It's just there. We could say it's the canvas on which form is created. Form comes and goes. The canvas is who you are beyond the body and beyond the thinking mind. So being, to be, what that means is to realize your essence of who you are beyond the thinking mind and beyond the body. It's to remove this element of separation within you, of this idea that you're a separate entity in the universe, and to realize you're not a separate entity in the universe. You're just the universe currently expressing itself in this little tiny form. That's who you are. That's what's happening. You're the universe currently expressing itself and peeking through this little form. What's happened is this veil of thought, the veil of the thinking mind got in the way, and it created a little individual self of, I'm my name, and I'm this body, and I'm all of these roles that I play, and all of these things that I carry out. That's what is meant by ego. It's this little fictitious self that is separate from the oneness of life, the oneness of being. So when you allow that egoic self to dissolve, which comes from realizing your essence of who you are beyond the thinking mind and beyond the body, when you allow that life energy to flow through you, that is what is meant by being. So it doesn't mean that you have to not do anything. This is what I believe as well was meant in the Bhagavad Gita by selfless action. What does that mean? What does it mean to drop the desire for the fruits of your actions and focus on the actions themselves? What does all of this mean? It means to end this idea that you're this individual self trying to gain things and trying to do your own thing, and allow life to flow through you, allowing life to do through you. That is when doing and being align, so you can then begin to create and do in this world from a place of being. Makes sense? So there's not a separation there. Some people think that there's doing and then there's being. I often say being is the opposite of doing. What I mean by that is being is the opposite of seeing yourself as this little individual entity doing things. That's what I mean by that. In essence, what I mean though is being means allowing this life energy that people can call God, that we could call being, we could call nature, allowing nature to work through you, allowing this life energy to work through you. And that happens when you let go of this individual egoic self and move into a state of presence, which means to be one with the present moment, which means to no longer be lost in the mind, which means to find your essence of who you are beyond the thinking mind. The moment you step out of it and move into the present moment, you're fully one with the present moment. That means you are one with life. That means life now has a channel to work through you. And this is where true creative action takes place, because it's going to be working from a place that is in alignment with the universe. It's my belief humans have separated themselves from this oneness of life, of the flow of life. It's essential now that humans learn how to reconnect with it. And that is what's happening. That's what a spiritual awakening is. It's reconnecting no longer as this individual self on planet Earth, in nature. You're allowing yourself to realize you are not a separate entity. You are just the one entity, the one being, the one life energy, the one no thing giving rise to form. So when you're in touch with that and you allow it to flow through you, this is how you start to live a spiritual life that isn't separate from your everyday life. That's how some people live. They live their lives, they have a spiritual practice and then their life. I'd suggest trying to end that a little bit and allowing yourself to just live spiritually. What does that mean? To live in this essence of being all of your days. Doesn't mean it's easy. It's going to be difficult, but that's the essence of living a spiritual life. There's no spirituality, my life, kind of my, my work and job and family. Can you merge these two together and just be present? In order to be present, what that means is that you have to trust in something. Now, this is, of course, what people meant in the Bible by faith. You don't have to listen to that if you don't like to. You can use the word trust. Having this element of trust that if I align myself with the present moment, things are going to be okay. If I align myself with the present moment, things are going to be all right. I'm going to be looked after by something. You can use whatever word you like for it. I'd suggest nature, being, God, whatever word works best for you. Trusting that if I align myself with that, with the one life, I'm going to be looked after. I'm going to be okay. And that is what is meant by living a spiritual life. And this is what a lot of people are missing in terms of they get into spirituality and they start trying to manifest things and attract things. That's a surface level spiritual practice. There was a much deeper foundation that you need to find first in order for those things to make sense and for those things to be satisfactory anyway, because you could manifest the biggest house in the world, it's still not going to satisfy you if you haven't found this element of being first. So this is my belief, is first you need to find the foundations to build your life on. So you need to find the rocks to build your life on, otherwise you're going to be constantly building your life on sand. So in order to find this element of being, it's not out there, it's the here and now. The kingdom of heaven is within you, as Jesus would say. The kingdom of heaven is here and now. What did he mean? There's no place. He's not referring to a place over there. I prefer the term, the peace of heaven is within you now. The peace of heaven is here and now. I feel as though that's a much more helpful way of grasping it for me. The peace of presence, the peace of being is here and now. The peace of life, the peace of nature is in the here and now. It's within you. You can only find it when you end the illusions of the thoughts in your mind, this fictitious self, and you move into a state of being. It's not out there. You're not going to find it. It's a remembering of who you are beyond the mind and the body. So if these words are making sense to you, that's what's happening to you right now. You're awakening out of this fictitious egoic self and realizing who you are beyond all of that, which is oneness with life, which is what we could say oneness with being.